All right, we're going to do a candidate profile again, this time of Kamala Harris, who declared her candidacy on Martin Luther King Day, because nothing says being a presidential candidate more than using the legacy of somebody who was killed in tragic circumstances to promote your own self-image. So Kamala Harris, born to a mother who's from India, Tamil descent, if that means anything to you. Tamils are from the southern end of the Indian peninsula, subcontinent. Yeah, Indian subcontinent, sorry. So her mom's name was Shamala Gopalan, and she's a cancer research scientist at Stanford. I don't know if she's still in practice, but in any case, her dad was Donald Harris, born in Jamaica, and she was born in 1964. She grew up practicing both Hinduism and Baptist Christianity, and I think that sort of issue, it may become a wedge that dislodges her. And this is not, I'm not saying this is justified, because I know Hindus and they're usually pretty nice people, usually. But people use that against her. It's just a fact. Because there's a lot of people who just can't accept other people who have that type of belief system. I personally don't agree with Hinduism, but I don't think you should use that against either her or Tulsi Gabbard, who they're really kind of exaggerating that issue with. But in any case, so she was raised in two religions. She attended Westmount Hospital, or actually Westmount High School in Montreal, Quebec, after her parents were divorced. So she grew up with her mom. And then she went to Howard University, which is, that's the setting for, well, actually, I think that was a different college. Anyway, so Howard is basically considered the elite of the historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, for those of you that don't know. And it's in Washington, D.C. And then she went to UC Berkeley's Hastings Law School, graduating in 1989. She later passed the bar, I think, in 1991. So she's been practicing law for 28 years, if you count her time in the Senate. So I guess it would have been 25 years. And then she becomes a prosecutor. And that's kind of that's the image I know of Kamala Harris, this looming, like menacing woman. She's about to come in and basically bite your face off. And that's basically what the image that she tries to exude. She might be one of the least warm people that I've ever seen on TV. She just channels this just hatred of people when I see her on. And it's not even this isn't a racial issue. I think she hates people of all races. And I think a lot of people will agree with me. But here's her record. So she was Alameda County Deputy District Attorney in 1990 through 1998. That's where Oakland is. She was at the city's attorney office in San Francisco from 2000 to 2003. And then she was elected district attorney in April 2004. So district attorney for San Francisco area. She declined to demand the death penalty in Officer Isaac Espinosa's murder, despite Senator Dianne Feinstein's demand. So this is a funny situation, because you have the two people who happen to represent California at the federal level taking very opposite stances on death penalty regarding a cop killing. Okay, so those of you that know me, I'm not like the most pro-police person, but I still think the police deserve, at least some respect. I still think people should stand up for their constitutional rights, but I don't think you should shoot police officers, obviously. So Feinstein did demand Espinosa's murderer be tried for the death penalty. And at the time, Kamala Harris was very much against the death penalty. She also published this book called Smart on Crime in 2008 to highlight ideas on reforming paroled felons. And she increased the conviction rate from 52% to 67% during her tenure.
There's one other charge that I know in a state you're running for office, and that is your position on the death penalty. That you must be asked that question by everybody.
I'm personally opposed to the death penalty, but I'll follow the law. My position on the death penalty is the same as 4 of the last 9 attorneys general of California, and the focus that I think most people want to see when we talk about the role and the responsibility and capacity of the attorney general on this issue of the criminal justice system is to provide leadership around innovation and recognizing that we are in a rut. We had that conversation with your panel, and we need to get smarter around, measuring outcomes and figuring out that what we all want is public safety. We don't want rhetoric that.
So you can see from her answer to that question that Kamala Harris was trying to play both sides. She was talking out both sides of her mouth. She was claiming that you can oppose the death penalty and still enforce it if you are part of the system because you're adhering to the policy of the system. So this is not going to be a popular position with people who are progressive, left-wing, all of those things, because the vast majority of those people are very much opposed to the death penalty. I personally am kind of agnostic about the death penalty. I would say, I think states should be allowed to adopt it, but I personally am not hardcore pro death penalty or very much against it. In any case, once she became Attorney General of California, people started to notice that the mask was slipping from her. Okay, and she was pretty much just this corporate puppet, and she would be willing to do anything to get elected and stay in office and be among the most powerful in the state and eventually the nation. So she claimed to oppose the death penalty prior to running, yet she defended it in federal court up to the end of her tenure. And I have a link in this presentation. I'll link this presentation, and within the presentation, there's a link to San Francisco Chronicle article which discusses the fact that even to the end, like 2015, she was already planning to run for U.S. Senate. Even to the end, Kamala Harris defended the death penalty in federal court on behalf of the state of California as Attorney General. That is a position that I think will be very much a cudgel used by her opponents in order to knock down her candidacy, and justifiably so, because you can't, on the one hand, profess all of these modern progressive values that a lot of people on the left do, and then in practice facilitate the complete opposite of those beliefs as part of your job. Another major issue that she is continually brought to task for by people further along the left is her refusal to prosecute One West Bank's CEO, Steve Mnuchin, for mortgage fraud following the 2008 financial crisis. As most of you would probably know, Steve Mnuchin is our Secretary of the Treasury. I don't think he was I think it was kind of a bad choice, if you want me to be honest, at the time. At the time, I really criticized it. I don't know what effect there's been, because I'm not exactly a monetary guru like some other people. You can look at Rethinking the Dollar. He's a great channel that he discusses a lot of monetary policy. I'd say at the moment, I think he's not doing a great job because there are weaknesses to the financial system, and we're still in a whole load of debt, but that's not entirely up to Steve Mnuchin. It's up to the entire federal government and the 3 branches of our government. But yes, it is a problem for people that his bank was involved in a number of mortgage fraud cases where they were basically taking people's houses out from under them. And as Attorney General of California, she declined to prosecute him. Now, another issue was this child truancy law, which I don't really understand, but here's a report from ABC. I think this is in Bakersfield, California, about it.
We all hope that our kids stay in school, but sometimes it takes the Kern County High School District to make sure of it. 23 ABC's Lauren Etlinger took a ride with officers today as they went door to door getting answers.
3 Kern County Police Departments teamed up and set out to talk to students who miss school on a consistent basis and find out why.
Is those from prescriptions?
Yeah.
Real quick?
in order to increase school attendance and decrease juvenile delinquency.
As a senior, I guarantee you there's going to be you'll be losing a lot of things as you go. So you don't mess up that year, man.
Kids are.
Let me scroll back there. You see these three people in the frame? There's only one hero, and it's this blurred image over here. This guy. That was me. That was me back in 12th grade. I barely even went to school. No, that's not really me. But yeah, I think this law is kind of bullshit. I don't think that you should prosecute parents because their kids don't go to school. I think that you might want to penalize them. And yeah, you know what? I really don't know what to do about that. I'll tell you what, because it's not my problem. I hate school and I don't have any kids.
You'll be losing a lot of things as you go. So you don't mess up that year, man.
When kids are not in school, then statistics show that they're participating in negative behaviors.
Police!
Well, if they taught statistics in school, maybe it would be worth going to it.
And Davila says there are long-term consequences if they don't graduate.
They have higher odds of living in poverty, and
Wrong in my case.
The odds of them getting full-time jobs are much more difficult.
Police say families should keep a close eye on their kids to make sure they're going to classes.
And now parents actually have the option of tracking their students' attendance online or on their smartphone.
But along with the ease of tracking your child, there's...
All right, that's enough. But it is a stupid law. I don't know why you have to fucking bust people's parents because they don't go to school. You know, it's ridiculous. Here it is. So another thing that I find really polarizing about Kamala Harris is her conduct during the Senate hearings on a number of different topics. She always comes off as very inquisitorial, if that's the word. She behaves as if she's a member of the Spanish Inquisition. This is a woman who revels in her power, and this is something I will discuss probably closer to the end.
Is he fit to be a jurist in the place where we have said justice in our country occurs? In the House, where we listen to evidence and truth and make determinations based on the veracity and the truthfulness of what has occurred. That is our role when it comes to Dr. Ford's allegations. And we fell short. We fell short. We did not do her justice. We did not do the American people justice. We were given 1 week to investigate. The Republicans said, you'll get 1 week. They threw out 1 week, an arbitrary amount of time. And in less than 1 week, we are presented with paltry documents. This was not a meaningful investigation into the allegations that are before us. And this, most importantly, was not a search for the truth. We only received approximately 400,000 pages out of an estimated 6.9 million pages of documents. The Republicans have been saying, oh, you should be happy you received thousands of pages of documents, because they want us to treat crumbs on the table like it's a feast. Every American is entitled to the benefit of the doubt, but nobody is entitled to a seat on the United States Supreme Court.
So I felt that that was one of the lowest points in the history of having a country. The reason is, okay, that Brett Kavanaugh, there were many issues with his belief system and why he should, you know, Brett Kavanaugh was a very problematic justice to bring before the court, before the Senate in order to confirm him for the court, because he was involved in a lot of the machinations of justifying the Patriot Act, rendition of prisoners during the Iraq War. These are real legal problems, okay? I do think you can argue either side of it, okay? I personally think a lot of the liberties were compromised during that era because of people like Justice Kavanaugh. And people like Kamala Harris, this is the real problem. Rather than focus on those problems with Kavanaugh's, his stances on those issues, while there were the actual hearings, they chose to focus in on a number of libelous claims by a number of people that he sexually assaulted them during incidents that they couldn't prove anything about. So the fact of the matter is that I will always side with people having the assumption of innocence, even if it's people that I don't like at all. And there are people who I've defended on this channel, as a matter of record, who I don't really agree with. Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders, Dennis Kucinich, Tulsi Gabbard, all three of them I've defended over the past year from false allegations of all sorts of prejudices or crimes. Tavis Smiley, Roy Moore, who I didn't like either. You can defend a person's innocence without defending their character or their beliefs. And with Kamala Harris, this is the type of thing that I think I would not be the only American that objects to this type of behavior towards a person facing allegations under the public eye. We just went through a number of similar issues with Roger Stone and the Covington kids, and I don't think it's only right-wing people. I don't think it's only Republicans who object to this. It's really a huge problem, and I think having Kamala Harris as the candidate would be an issue for those of us that believe in presumption of innocence, and I hope that that's the majority of Americans. Now, let's get to another topic that is a little interesting. I don't think we'll be able to watch the whole thing because it's a long video. So this is Yvette Carnell. She basically has a show called Breaking Brown, which is a show that is probably, the summary of the show is this. Black people are treated bad in America. Black people do not include immigrant black people from Africa, such as, Kenyans and Nigerians. They only, in her mind, black people only include descendants of slaves and descendants of slaves whose ancestors lived in the contiguous United States and Alaska and Hawaii. So if you immigrated here, listen to this, from the Bahamas, from Puerto Rico, from any of these other countries, and your ancestors happen to be slaves back there, let's say in Jamaica or whatever, it does not count. In her mind, you are something else. And that's not me. This is exactly what she believes. And she also believes in reparations and all that stuff. And you can watch her channel if you want to see more about that. I used to watch her channel. Eventually it just got too depressing.
Based on these tweets that I just put up, all these immigrant tweets, this has been, understand, you go through Kamala Harris's page, you go through her Twitter, you go through her website, you go through her Senate. What you see is that her claim to fame, has been immigration. I stand for the dreamers. I stand for undocumented. I stand for asylum. I stand for all of that. When she wants to run for president, that's what she's been saying this whole time. She wants to run for president on MLK, during MLK week, and associate herself with Martin Luther King Jr. But her claim to fame, since she's gotten in the Senate, her claim to fame in California was being top cop. But since she's gotten to the Senate, her claim to fame has been immigration. What I'm telling you is that you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. What you do get to do, though, you get to do this. You get to go to the border and announce your candidacy there. You get to go to the border with the immigrants and the undocumented and the refugees and tell them you're going to stand for them and you're going to announce your candidacy there. You do not get to co-opt Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, Miss Canadian, Indian, whatever. You do not get to do that. Especially when you have done nothing, Kamala Harris, in your life to consistently mount a sustained effort on behalf of American DOS. You are trying to stand up for America.
DOS is descendants of slaves, for those that don't know.
This man that you trying to announce your candidacy during the week of, he took a bullet for American DOS. He took a bullet that ended his life. You have done nothing. You have done nothing to earn anything from us.
All right, so that's the pro-black position, and I think the pro-black community is a little. It's not like they all believe the same thing. Some of them are really bizarre people, and some of them are actually kind of interesting. One of her guests, who is on this same video as here, but she kind of says everything I wanted to highlight here, is Antonio Moore, who's a really far left progressive lawyer and economist, and he has a number of ideas that they are interesting. I wouldn't say I agree with them, but they're kind of they're innovative as far as what type of reparations would be in place. And he works with Dr. Darity. I forgot his first name, over in I think he's at Duke University or something. But in any case, yeah, the pro-black community are what I would say they're people who are splintering off from the regular progressive left. They don't care about immigration. They would actually rather most of these immigrants don't even come here, because they believe that they are getting screwed over in favor of illegal immigrants. They are getting ignored. They think that black people should just vote for things based on black issues. They are a bigger community than people think, and they have a point. They want somebody that will represent exclusively the interests of their community. I personally don't hold to that type of position, but there's a lot of people out there that do think so, that are in the black community. So I don't believe that you should have representatives elected to government that represent exclusively the black community, the Hispanic community, the white community, the Jewish community. Those I think, and I oppose them for whatever community they're in. That's why I oppose AIPAC as well. I think that people have to represent their constituents, and if they want to represent some of these other issues, they really have to make that case without compromising the interests of their constituents. The constituents have to come first. I'm sorry, but Yvette Carnell has the right as a constituent, and I think she's from Atlanta, to object to this type of politics in the black community, where they use them basically as cannon fodder and then look after immigrants. Okay, we couldn't get away without talking about the affair between Willie Brown and Kamala Harris. Apparently, it was so open that Brown used to go to parties with both his wife, who he married in 1958, and Kamala Harris. So this is him getting interviewed by, human amphibian hybrid Roland Martin on his webcam.
Well, let me tell you, 8, 9 different folk from the world of the media had called to ask me. We saw your picture here. You were in the LA Times. You were at the Academy Awards. And each time it was you and Kamala Harris, who is now married to someone and whom you clearly must have had some relationship with. So, of course, I dated Miss Harris 25, 30 years ago. So what? What does that got to do with anything? They said, well, it's an issue. I said, well, fine. It's an issue, and it'll be out of the way long before you look at the incredible qualifications of this great potential president of these United States, period. That's why I did it. I did it to get it out of the way.
And so did you give her a heads up that, hey, Senator, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. People are asking me, and I can just knock it out of the way?
No, let me tell you, I didn't have to give a heads up. The New York Times gave a heads up. New York Times printed, one of those places printed a story, and the story was inaccurate, period. And when she was apparently...
So essentially what he was trying to say was, well, I didn't want people to keep asking me about it, so I figured I'd put it out in the press. That's not the way that you make people stop asking you questions about something. When you admit to something that's sensational about a future president or a new presidential candidate, no, you don't. You pretty much you shut the fuck up about it, or you pay people off like some people have. You try to keep the story mum. So basically, he hurt his own cause, if that was even his intent, and I don't think it was. I think what he's really trying to do is bite her in the ass.
Apparently approached, she had no comment. Well, no comment is bullshit for me in this world, just like it is for you. And so consequently, I just decided, wait a minute, you asked me the question, I'm going to candid answer it. And I answered it for one, CBS, I think, or NBC, one of the two. And then I just wrote what I said when I answered the question.
And of course, there are some who are critical of you, trying to say, well, also for her, why was she dating this married man? Why is he taking credit for her career by saying that I supported her career? How would you respond to that?
Well,
I want to say, why is it that Roland Martin always wears sweaters that appear to be basically, just like it looks like a straitjacket on him? You see these buttons kind of straining to close over him. I never wear stuff like that. I'm actually in not great a shape myself. I just wear a t-shirt, and I never wear a shirt where the buttons seem to be bursting.
I supported her career. How would you respond to that?
Well, I did support her career, and I was married, but I have been separated before meeting her. I've been separated for 25 years. And I've been separated for almost 50 years, but I've been separated for 25 years. So the reference of separation clearly.
Yeah, so that's a bunch of weirdo bullshit. I don't think anybody is separated within a marriage for 25 years. Most people would get a divorce. And I think Willie Brown is just having some fun at the expense of Kamala Harris. And that's about it in terms of what I have to present. So in summary, I think Kamala Harris would be a horrible candidate for president, and I hope to God she does not get elected. Kamala Harris is basically a demagogue in every way, far worse than either a Donald Trump or many of these other figures that have been brought up as demagogues, because she repeatedly uses her own identity and, whether it's her gender identity or her racial identity, in order to hammer forth policy issues that she wants to enforce, even if there are policies that are against her own community or against certain interests that she's supposed to be promoting. So this is a person who masquerades as a progressive, but used to be a major law enforcement person. Okay, that's why there's the hashtag going around, Kamala is a cop. There's a person who claims to be tough on white-collar criminals, but she did shield Steve Mnuchin and his bank. Okay, for a lot of progressive people in the Democratic Party, that's very important. So I say that it would be in the best interest of the country if she never gets close to the office of president. What do I say about her chances? I think that Kamala Harris's campaign would depend on any sort of mobilizing of basically corporate liberals in states like New York, New Jersey, California, Maryland, places like that. She would need basically the entire corporate establishment to sell out to get her elected. And in the absence of Hillary Clinton being in the race, or Joe Biden, at the moment, it looks like that could happen. There are a few other people that could be potential damaging rivals of hers. Elizabeth Warren, to some extent, although Elizabeth Warren's gaffes and scandals are also kind of, people don't necessarily like her as well, but she has stronger policy credentials for progressives. If you're looking at people like Kirsten Gillibrand, I think Gillibrand, if put on a debate stage with Kamala Harris, would probably come across as more genuine. Kamala Harris, whatever background you come from, most people that I hear say that she's fake and generally very condescending towards people that she's talking to. And I think that comes through in all the video footage of her. Another thing with Kamala Harris, so what if she wins all of the neoliberal, corporate votes? Those are kind of important, but that I think will be to some extent divided in the race. We don't know if Joe Biden is going to pull in or not. We don't know if Hillary Clinton will or not. So if there's so many people in the race that represent that camp, it's going to be divided, and eventually you will probably see one major candidate advance, and I don't think it will be her, because I would say that most of these neoliberal sellouts would probably support somebody who is a little more personable. And therefore, who does she really have to fear? She has to fear somebody like a Bernie Sanders, who is probably going to announce a run, from the sources I read, very soon. She would face a significant challenge from Tulsi Gabbard, because I think ultimately the progressives will be able to unite behind someone a little faster than the corporate people within the Democratic Party. So you're going to see a real problem for her going forward. She's going to have to fight all of these other, like what do you call them? Centrist liberals, blue dog Democrats, corporate liberals. She's going to have to fight them first. She's going to be very unpopular in states that are not along the coast. So any of these primaries in the South, she's going to have to fight with other people. I don't think necessarily those states have a very heavy African American vote, but a lot of those people are going to reject her because of her history as Attorney General, and a lot of those people are not favoring illegal immigration. So I think that's a fail. She can't depend on the Southern Black African American vote. She's going to be very unpopular in the Midwest. I know that for a fact. She would probably do terribly here in Ohio and in other states along the Rust Belt, Indiana, Pennsylvania. She would probably be just destroyed. So no, I don't think she has a very good chance. I think the later this week I will see if Bernie Sanders officially announces, and then we'll do a profile of him. So far, let's do a review. I had Julian Castro. That was the second one, I believe. I don't think his chances are that great, and he would be one of those corporate liberals that would be a rival of Kamala Harris's. Tulsi Gabbard, who I think, we have yet to see. Maybe she could make a serious run. I think she has a lot of potential. She has a lot of smarts to go along with the potential. Kirsten Gillibrand, a little complicated situation with her, but not entirely implausible that she could win the nomination. And Kamala Harris. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel, save or share the video, and subscribe to me on Razor Ray Special Cuts, my second YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to me on Cocoscope and BitChute, and I'll talk to you later.